just want to remind everybody, that's what opportunity is it? Is the ability to see what was maybe, and see maybe what we can recapture. So I hope you're starting to get a sense of the picture, and the next few speakers will start to drill down on specific categories. And next up, we're very fortunate to have Mr. Jason Van Tassel from Paniolo Cattle Company.
Jeff, who is the Jeffrey Poole with the import replacement?
Oh, Larry Jeffs.
Oh, Larry.
J-E-F-T.
Thank you.
J-E-F.
Aloha.
Sunland. Sugar.
So I was asked earlier this week if I would prepare something and present it here to you this morning, and I thought, okay, I can probably do that. He said, hey, no worry, I'll write your talk. Well, it's I'm not much of one for reading a talk or taking somebody else's word. I didn't know where I might get, and I thought I might get in trouble, but I wanted to. But I'm excited to be here, and I'll tell you why. I have not sat in a room with so many diverse individuals, but we all share in the same thing, and that is growing food. And I use that term broadly because it is. And when I think of my role in food production, I think of that cow out in the pasture. How many of you have thought about the cow out in the pasture? There's a couple, not many. And so each of us, and Jeff made a very good point, we do need to distinguish between what we do and help that we talk about the right things. So I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I was born and raised in the mountains of northern Utah. I'm a long way from what I called home. But I came over to Parker Ranch in 2011 to do a research project while I was working on my master's degree about keeping our cattle home and keeping them here in Hawaii and producing product for our local markets. And we wanted to see what that landscape looked like. And so I finished the project. I was excited about it. I went back to Texas to finish my schooling, and about a year later I get a phone call. Jason, what are you doing? We want you to do a little more work on this. We're still using your model. We want to see it. So I did a little more work, and a couple of years later I get another phone call from the ranch saying, hey, we're moving with this program. We want you to come and operate this, manage our local cattle production system for Hawaii. And so in 2014, my wife and 4 kids loaded our stuff, and we made the trip across the ocean and are calling Hawaii our home. And so I work for Parker Ranch as one of the livestock managers, and then I'm also the general manager of Paniolo Cattle Company, which we started in January of 2014 in a partnership with Ulupono Initiative on Oahu, and our focus is to grow beef for Hawaii, keep those animals here, and we believe that there's opportunity for everyone in that segment of agriculture to make money, whether we're the producer, whether we're growing those animals out to fatten on grass, through the processing segment, and into the stores. And so we are in our second year of this program. We've had about 2,200 animals now that we've kept back, and we're starting to see those our products in the store, in the Chef's Own store with Waihaka over on Oahu, and then some of our product goes into the local production segments of the supermarkets through various channels. So not necessarily under our Paniolo Cattle Company name, but we're really excited. And it's been a great experience to just see what the value is and what the drive is here in Hawaii for local product. Everywhere we go, I'm getting phone calls every week saying, hey, where do we find local product? I go to the supermarket, where do I find it? How do I get my hands on this local product? And so it's a change, and it's a move, and it's a drive that we're seeing that is taking off, not only here in Hawaii, but throughout the U.S. So that's a little bit about me and where I come from, my background. My family has been in agriculture for, once you go back about 3 generations, weren't all of our families involved in ag? And that's really the challenge. What percentage of people today are involved in ag? About 2%, maybe a little less than 2% of the whole population are involved in ag. We have a huge job on our hands to feed those people and also to educate them, to help them understand what it takes to plant the seed, to wait for months and months and take care of it, nourish it, protect it, harvest a product that they can have sitting on their tables. For me in the beef industry, it's years. From the time that animal is first conceived until the time that we have an animal that is ready to harvest and to have a steak on our table, it's over 3 years. So there's a huge time commitment and a huge monetary commitment in the industry that I love and love being a part of. I just spoke with a friend of mine yesterday, and we commented on how fun it is to be involved in agriculture. And wherever you go, and I see this we lived in Oregon, so we're Oregonians, love it. But wherever we go in this industry, we find friends, and we make friends quickly because we have something in common. We know the value of hard work, and we know the value of putting our, planting the seeds and the harvest. And so that's a great commonality and bond that we have between all of us here. So I'd like to talk a little bit today about the beef industry and the challenges that we face being in the industry. And while I call them challenges, I wake up every morning excited about the work that I do, and so it's nothing to be depressed about. Just as you who are feeding people, growing, whatever it is, we all have some challenges. But isn't it exciting to wake up in the morning and take on the new days? I was driving down the coast. I thought, what a beautiful day, and what a blessing it is to be here in Hawaii and to get to be a cowboy in Hawaii. I love it. My friends are all jealous back on the mainland. But we do have some challenges, and I'll just kind of looking at this from a production standpoint. So the first challenge that we face in the industry is forage. The mother cow, she takes care of that baby for about 7 to 8 months of age, and she does a pretty good job. She can find the forage that she needs. She takes care of all the needs, provides them with some companionship and things. And then it's time for that baby to come off of that cow, and it's my job and my cowboy's job at the ranch to make sure that those animals have the right forage every day for the next 2 years as that animal grows. And so forage is a real challenge here in Hawaii because as we saw the great chart that Jeff showed, there's differences in the types of forage. There's differences in the type of the soil types. Topography plays a huge role in providing the right environment for these animals to grow and to put on the right fat in the right places to really become a finished animal that when you sit down and throw a steak on the barbecue, you're going to like it. And in order to do that, that animal has to be on a positive plane of nutrition every day for those 550 days, 600 days. So that's a big issue for us in livestock. When it comes time to wean those animals, transportation becomes a huge issue, as we know. The transportation between, inter-island transportation or transportation to the mainland, whether the ranchers are selling their calves on the mainland or whether they are keeping their animals back and they have to bring minerals and feed supplements and things like that back into Hawaii for the care of their animals. Transportation is a huge issue. For those who ship their calves, it doesn't end when they get on when they leave the pasture, the corral gate. They have to then provide feed for those animals while they make that voyage. They have to pay for that. They have to pay for a stock tender. So we have, in our cattle industry here, we have standards that we meet, that for every so many animals that go, we provide a stock tender. And so that person gets to spend a week on the ship and take care of those animals every day, that they have clean food or clean water and fresh feed. So it doesn't end at the gate. We also have, it requires a lot of coordination in getting those animals to the mainland or getting feed here in Hawaii. Keeping our animals here, this initiative that we've started with Paniolo Cattle Company, doesn't change anything. We still have to get our cattle processed and to Oahu or to the supermarkets, and so it's still another big issue of coordinating what happens every day. As all of you who are raising crops well know. The processing facilities there's some challenges that the processing facilities face. We have enough processing here in Hawaii to process the cattle that are currently being produced and kept here in the state when everything goes well. Now, when droughts occur, then ranchers are faced with a new issue, and that is, do we let our animals starve and get hungry, or do we try to send more of those less productive, less performing animals to market? Do we put them on a plane? Do we put them on a boat and send them to the mainland? How do we market those animals? Well, when that happens, there's an increase of animals that come through those processing facilities. And here in Hawaii, there's just a lack of skilled workers for these processing facilities. They don't know how to do the work, and it's not for everyone. And so there's some issues around the processing. Our energy costs are also extremely high, and so we can't compete with the products that come from the mainland because they can do it so much cheaper than we can here in Hawaii. That's just one of our challenges being here. We have limited access to markets. On the mainland, if I'm raising cattle and I run into a fire, you guys have seen the news, there's been huge fires on the mainland this year in my home country in the West. Burned up millions of acres of feed that the ranchers have been planning on for their cattle through the winter. So what do? What do we do here in Hawaii? They're able to put their cattle on a truck, they ship them to parts of the country, they go into auctions, they're able to market those cattle, and they can move them. There aren't any auctions for cattle in this state. And so it becomes a real challenge when my feed resources get low, yet I see somewhere else in the state they have plenty of grass and not enough cattle. It's a real challenge to be able to just move those cattle to another part of the state and do it efficiently and effectively. And then finally, there will always be competition with the mainland for New Zealand or Australia, where they produce great animals. They have cheap labor costs. They have cheap production costs, and they're able to really compete with us here in Hawaii for the market. Now, back in the 50s and 60s was really the heyday for the cattle industry here in Hawaii. And at that time, Hawaii, Jeff, you may have some other numbers, but Hawaii was only producing, even in that great time when all the animals were staying here, was only meeting about 40% of the demand from consumers for beef, and the rest was brought in. So having the idea that we can be self-sustaining in beef production in Hawaii, we'll never get there. We just don't have the animals throughout the whole state. If every animal was kept back in the state, we might meet 20%. The number varies, but still, is that a reason to give up? Of course not. We are excited about our program and for many other programs that are going on throughout the state of keeping our cattle home and providing jobs for people all the way through the segments of the industry. Some opportunities that we look at in this industry is, our ranchers love what they do, and they know that the consumer wants to know what they do. And so animal welfare and handling has been a huge push for us in this industry. And our cowboys work every day trying to improve their stockmanship and the ability that they have to interact with these animals in a very positive way, so that the next person who interacts with these animals in the industry, in the segment, has a good experience, and the animal has a good experience. It doesn't do us very good if we take an animal down to the neighbors to graze grass, and he runs him out of the pasture every time he comes in to feed him his minerals. And so we're really working on the stockmanship with our guys, and statewide to help improve the interactions between man and animals. Over the last several years, we've seen a lot of effort also to go into the improvement of and quality of the animal. So looking at genetics and types of breeds that work really well here in Hawaii. They can handle the heat. They can convert the types of forages that we have here that are diverse and yet specific to the tropics. On the mainland, I can graze my cattle and get 2.5 pounds of gain on that animal every day. Here in Hawaii, we do really good if we can get 1.5 pounds, 1.25 pounds. And so those are some issues, and those are some things that we're really working on right now. KS has been doing a big project on the Hamakua coast working with Lucina, a type of plant very similar to the halikoa that we have native here. And we're seeing some great gains on the animals that are grazing on that type of feed. The use of technology is being brought in more and more. We've got cowboys. I had 2 cowboys in my office yesterday showing them how we're going to start using a GPS. So when they're out in their pastures and they see an issue, they can mark it, and it comes back to a map on my computer so we can address it. We're using technology in our cows so we can track where that animal is, and it goes back to traceability. So when these animals come in to your stores, you know where the animal came from. And if there's an issue, they can trace it back to the source. And that takes a lot of faith and trust in these ranchers and the products that they produce to say, you know what, I stand behind these animals. When they leave my place, I stand behind it, that you will have a good eating experience. Some great things going on with in the aspect of technology. When I look at my experience here at Parker Ranch specifically, we have people coming in to the ranch every week for tours. And on the farms and ranches, I know Kualoa Ranch on Oahu, they get 1,000 visitors a day over there. They get to tell their story about how they produce their food. They're in more markets than just beef. They're raising produce. They're raising fish, shrimp. They've got a lot of neat things going there. But we get to tell our story, and there is such a value in being able to tell the story of how we do things, the love that we have for our land and for the animals that are on that land, and for the people that we rub shoulders with and work with every day. It's a great opportunity, and it's one that we're seeing more and more value behind. As how many of you go to Whole Foods? There's others as well, but you go into these stores. Yeah, I was sorry, Rosa. Yeah, but you go into the stores, and what do you promote? You promote the story. You promote the story of where these animals come from, or where your food is raised. There's a picture of the family that is standing there next to the basket of produce that they've grown. That's what consumers want to see. That means something to them, and the stories that we have to share are critical. We've got to help the public understand what we do. We've got to help bring them to our farms and to our ranches and let them see and let them get their fingers in the dirt. I see kids come up, they come up to the ranch, I take them out to a group of cattle that I'm growing, and I explain to them how many pounds of grass it takes to make 1 pound of beef. Wow, they're excited. I ask them, how many of you had grass for breakfast? You know? Well, this animal can convert that into something great tasting and that's nutritious and healthy for you. So this is an exciting time to be in agriculture, whatever segment you choose to be in. And that's one thing great about it is I heard the question come up, you know, what produce, what product should we be growing? What cattle should I be raising? You know what, find something that you enjoy, that your heart is in, because if your heart is there, you'll figure out a way to make it work, and there will be people who want that product from you because of the job that you do. How can consumers support our industry? Learn the facts. Don't be swayed by the stories that go out there about you know, don't use these products, don't shop here, don't do that. Learn the facts for yourselves. We have that responsibility, and as we do that, we can share that message and that story with other people. That's how we support agriculture. And it's not just one product or another. I don't know the last time I had a meal that was just enjoyable with one thing on my plate. We like a variety, and so it's great that we have such a variety of growers, producers, and people with all different attitudes and personalities here in this room to help support agriculture. And I guess the last thing I would say to you to support my industry is eat more beef. It's great. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes.
What is the goal of the Ulupono project in your what are the goals?
So what we looked at originally for Paniolo Cattle Company is we looked at a couple of the issues that we deal with. One is transportation and energy being part of that, and the other is feed costs on the mainland. And being those commodities fluctuate a lot, and some years we made money on cattle, some years we didn't make money on cattle, and so I said, well, how do we take more control of those commodities? And we looked at let's keep animals back, let's grow them here, let's manage more of the variables, and our goal is to increase the local beef production by, or I should say, increase the local production of beef, so that the consumer has a choice in the stores to buy local. And you know, we see such a huge demand for local product that there were a lot of other players that are in the organization say, you know, how are we all going to compete? We look at it and say, you know, there's room for everybody. And that slide was a great slide. What, 17%, I think, on beef that stays here. So, and our goal is to make it a statewide operation for beef, or for our local beef production.
Jason?
Yes.
Just a quick, can you kind of explain in an animal as you go through the harvest, what ends up as kind of this choice steak material that you get out of the, you buy at a store, as opposed to the burger and the stew, rougher kinds of meats? So what's the relative relationship of that out of an animal or out of a ranch like you're doing?
Okay. So if you take about a 1,200 pound animal, at harvest time, there's about 50% of that comes off that is inedible. So hides, things like that. Out of that now 600 pound carcass, there's a big part of that are bones. About 70% of it is red meat yield. We wish we were producing an animal that only produced steaks, but that is not the case.
Or two-tailed.
Yeah, And so about, out of now that 350 pounds of total animal, about half of that is our great steaks and roasts, and then the rest of that, either because of the location of the muscle or the function of that particular muscle or whatever, the best thing to do is to grind that, and that's what makes up the hamburger. So a large part of the animal does go into hamburger, which is great because we have such a demand for lean grind. You know, hamburgers, teriyaki burgers, it's a huge part of our market. Yes?
Has the demand for the local beef increased the price to the point where you guys are now receiving a higher price per pound for local as opposed to shipping it out there?
That's a great question. Does the current price of local meat make it worth keeping those animals back? Right now, we have seen the perfect storm for making money in the beef segment on the mainland. We've seen part of that come back to Hawaii. Our prices are generally mainland prices minus transportation, and so we don't ever see the great prices that the mainland may have. But with the local program, what we hope to see, and we're seeing that right now as beef prices on the mainland are coming down, that our local product will be able to maintain its demand and pricing in the market here. So we're excited. We're not excited for the fact that the prices are coming down, because that still affects our own local business for ranchers in Hawaii. But we do expect to see that local market will help drive more ranchers to keep animals back and join us in our efforts to keep more animals here in Hawaii. Thank you.